the popular PlayStation game. Until Dawn, released in 2015, quickly became one of the most anticipated survival horror titles of its time. Now, it's making a chilling comeback, this time as a live-action adaptation by Prime Video. Packed with mystery, suspense, and jump scares, this horror thriller promises to keep you on the edge of your seat from start to finish.
We all got fucking murdered.
The movie starts out with a girl named Melanie. She is wooing all the energy she has left, desperately clawing her way out of the dirt, trying to escape from a Wendigo. Unfortunately, the creature latches onto her legs and pulls her back, so she kicks it square in the face, breaking free for a moment, and keeps digging. Eventually, she bursts through the surface, only to be met by a masked psycho. She begs for her life, saying she can't die again, but the psycho still ends her with a brutal strike from a pickaxe. A year later, Melanie's sister Clover and her group of friends drive out to the area where Melanie vanished, hoping to find answers. The last message they received from her was a video she'd recorded in front of a gas station, where she explained she couldn't stay home after their mother passed away. They arrive at that same gas station, where Megan, who claims to be a psychic, convinces everyone to hold hands and try to channel Melanie's presence. But they're interrupted. An RV nearly plows into them. Inside the station, Clover shows a photo of Melanie to the clerk, Hill. He doesn't recognize her, but correctly assumes she's missing, and mentions that people vanish in Glor Valley all the time. Clover then tells the group they're heading into Glor Valley next. That night, they're still driving through a heavy storm. Visibility is low, and tension rises as they argue over what to do. Suddenly, the car breaks through the downpour, entering a perfectly clear zone, seemingly shielded by an invisible wall. The group stares in shock. The storm rages in the distance, but not here. No phone signal. A creepy wooden cross nearby. A massive, looming house. Clover reaches out, placing her hand on the invisible boundary to feel the rainfall. Then, she spots a figure on the road. Convinced it's her sister, she runs after it. Her ex-boyfriend Max sees her go and follows quickly, worried because night is falling in the clear area too. He reaches into the storm and pulls her back, but the figure is already gone. Meanwhile, the rest of the group is inside the house, checking it out. They find strange relics, a calendar from 1998, a massive hourglass, pickaxes mounted on the wall. The power still works, but there's no running water. Nina signs the guest book and flips through the previous entries. She discovers that many guests, including Melanie, signed their names multiple times, with the handwriting deteriorating each time. Nina's boyfriend, Abe, discovers a bulletin board covered in flyers. As he peels away the top layers, he reveals missing person posters, including Melanie's. But none of the posters contain any details. When Clover enters, she notices the guest book is titled Glor Valley, and believes this confirms the figure she saw really was her sister. Then Nina sees that the hourglass has been turned over, but nobody admits to touching it. Suddenly, a strange noise echoes from outside. They rush to the window and realize their car is gone. Running outside, they spot it parked in the rain with the headlights on. But as they approach, it suddenly accelerates toward them, forcing them to sprint back into the house. Megan, Max, and Clover decide to explore the basement, which turns out to be a large, furnished living area. There are deep claw marks on the windows, and Max quickly realizes there shouldn't even be windows in a basement. They find a phone and a radio, but neither works. Upstairs, Abe hears something and goes to investigate. One of the lights flickers and goes out. Nina calls for him, but there's no reply. She searches the room and flips on a light, only to find Abe sliced clean in half by the slasher. Her scream alerts the others. Max volunteers to check on her. He peers in cautiously and sees the slasher standing over Nina's body, a pickaxe lodged in her. As the killer turns to look at him, Max bolts back downstairs and tells the girls to hide. Moments later, the slasher descends. Max smashes a chair over his back, but it doesn't even faze him. Desperate, Max stabs at him with a broken chair leg, but the slasher effortlessly turns it around and plunges it through Max's eye, killing him instantly. While the slasher stalks for more victims, Clover quietly slips into another room to grab a knife. Just then, the slasher smashes open a closet and drags Megan out. He throws her against the wall, then slams her head repeatedly into the floor, killing her. Clover seizes the moment and drives a knife into his back, but the slasher remains completely unfazed. In a panic, Clover runs, her eyes catching glimpses of the bodies of her friends along the way. She stumbles into the forest, but trips and falls. A strange figure appears nearby. Clover reaches out, believing it might be her sister, But the slasher finds her and strikes her down with a pickaxe. At that moment, the hourglass reverses, and all 5 friends reappear in the house, right where they began their investigation. Each of them remembers dying, and now their faces are among the missing posters on the wall. Megan whispers that she feels something has taken hold of them. The group begins to argue over what to do, but their panic is cut short as the lights begin to flicker and the front door slams shut. Abe tries to close it again, but it opens once more. They scramble to block it with nearby furniture. Feeling ill, Megan takes a seat and says that something about tonight feels different. Suddenly, her body contorts in unnatural ways, and her eyes roll back as she throws her head back and lets out a scream so loud and painful that the group covers their ears. The light bulbs shatter, plunging them into darkness. They turn on their phone flashlights, only to find that Megan is gone. A low mumbling sound leads them to the wall of flyers. Megan floats before them, caught in a trance. She points to each missing person's poster, channeling their voices, repeating their final words before death. Then, with a final scream, she warns her friends not to let them in. Before her neck snaps and she collapses to the floor, dead. Max rushes to check on her, but Abe holds him back, warning that the possession might jump into another body. Just then, someone knocks on the door. Abe peeks out, but sees no one. The knocking continues, and this time, they hear Melanie's voice, pleading for help. Clover wants to open the door, but Abe stops her, reminding her of Megan's warning. Melanie screams as violent noises erupt, making it sound like she's being attacked. Unable to bear it, Max clears the barricade. Clover bolts outside, but no one is there. Across the road, an old shack has appeared, with a sinister message scrawled across its door, mocking Glor Valley. Suddenly, an invisible force throws Clover to the ground. Max rushes to help, but he's flung backward into the house just as the front door slams shut. The shack opens, and the force drags Clover to the entrance. For a brief moment, she believes she's safe, until she's yanked inside and the door slams again. Inside the house, Max keeps yanking at the doorknob, but it won't budge. Then a click is heard. He believes the door has unlocked. Max wants to run after her, but Abe stops him, insisting that Clover is probably dead, and they need to escape instead. Nina agrees, but Max ignores them and leaves. Inside the shack, Clover finds herself surrounded by decaying doll heads and a frail old woman breathing through a mask. The TV in the background reports on a mining accident in Glor Valley. Clover tries to open the door, but it won't move. The old woman approaches and calmly says the only way out is to either survive the night or become part of it. She throws Clover to the ground and forces her to breathe through the mask, saying she must suffer like the cursed town. Clover's eyes turn pitch black and the old woman crumbles into ashes. Max finally reaches the shack. The door creaks open and he steps inside. Meanwhile, Abe and Nina race to the car and drive away, only to be stopped by a massive, grotesque creature blocking the road. With no other option, they turn back. As Nina struggles with the door lock, she turns and finds Abe dead. The slasher looms behind her. Back inside the shack, Max finds it empty. The TV plays nothing but static. Papers on a nearby table are covered in disturbing drawings of monsters. A sudden sound upstairs draws his attention. He climbs the stairs and enters a room filled with creepy dolls. A rocking chair sways on its own. He stops it, but the noise resumes. Now, a clown doll sits in the chair. Max grabs it and hurls it against the wall, only to sense a presence behind him. He turns and finds Clover wearing a mask. She slashes him to death. As she exits the shack, the slasher runs her over with Abe's car. She dies on impact, and her eyes return to normal. Then, the hourglass resets again. Everyone returns to their original spots. Nina signs the guest book, for the 3rd time. Outside, Megan's hair is falling out. A rusted water tower now looms outside. They block the doors with furniture and hide in the bathroom. Abe fills a glass from the tap. Megan is surprised. It didn't work before. They all take a sip and listen as Clover explains her encounter. They conclude the old woman must be a witch and try to interpret her words. Suddenly, Abe begins coughing blood. He wipes his hand on the shower curtain to hide it, but the coughing worsens until his body explodes. Blood and gore splatter across Nina, who runs to wash her face, only for her to explode next. Clover, Max, and Megan panic and flee to the hallway. Megan begins coughing too. Her leg bursts open, dropping her to the floor, and her stomach swells unnaturally before it explodes. She writhes briefly before a final blast ends her life. Not wanting the same fate, Clover begs Max to kill her quickly. He wraps his hands around her neck, but can't go through with it. Instead, he explodes too. Clover collapses to the floor, only to hear whistling. She turns and finds Hill walking into the room. He tells her she won't survive by sitting still. She explodes. Then, once again, the hourglass resets. Everyone is alive. Megan feels new teeth growing in her mouth. The others begin searching the house for clues. Clover finds a box filled with medical records and IDs, all belonging to Hill, revealing that he worked as a psychiatrist at dozens of hospitals. They also find a newspaper article about a mining disaster that occurred 20 years ago. Over 1,000 people died, and Dr. Hill was brought in to treat the survivors. It's revealed that the town was swallowed by the earth itself, which explains the absence of other houses and the basement windows being above ground. Nina opens one of the basement doors and discovers a dark tunnel. She closes it immediately. Max stumbles upon a stash of old VHS tapes. He plays them. The first is a dirty film, but the next one is far more disturbing. It shows Hill conducting experiments in a clinic. His patients were tired of dying. Their bodies deteriorated, some losing hair. One died. The other went insane and began eating his friend. Eventually, he became a Wendigo. Hill's voice explains that his longest test subject lasted 11 nights. Just then, Hill speaks to the group through a radio. He offers a chilling deal. 4 of them can leave if one dies. Abe suggests they consider it, but the others are horrified. Megan suddenly reacts, sensing something, and points to a desk drawer. Clover opens it and finds a map. It marks one of the clinics Hill used to work at. She assumes that's where he's hiding. Abe counters, there are no buildings left. Clover picks up the radio and tells Hill she wants to meet. So Hill tells her he's waiting in the forest, with Melanie. A desperate Clover rushes out of the house, ignoring Max and the girls as they warn her it might be a trap. Meanwhile, Abe insists she made the right call. 1 dead is better than 5. Disgusted, Nina plunges a knife into his back, then orders the others to go after Clover. Once the couple is alone, the slasher appears and kills them both. Clover steps into a bear trap, and a shadowy figure yanks at the chains, dragging her into the darkness. Moments later, Max and Megan follow into the forest, discovering the sunken ruins of a forgotten town. Strange noises echo above, and they look up to see a Wendigo perched in a tree. They immediately take off running, but Megan stumbles and crashes onto the skylight of a buried house. As the glass begins to crack, Max grabs her hand and tries to pull her up, but the Wendigo grabs her by the ankle and shatters the skylight. Both fall through. Max watches helplessly as Megan is dragged away to her death. Meanwhile, Clover claws her way out of the darkness, just as Max stumbles across her. Then, the shadow steps forward. Melanie, now mid-transformation into a Wendigo. Max releases Clover from the bear trap and clamps it around Melanie's face, buying them time to escape. They run together and hide at the mouth of a collapsed mine. They embrace, unsure what comes next, until they hear the Wendigo approaching again. Clover asks for a quick end. Max takes a glass shard and slashes her throat. After Clover dies, Max drinks from a dripping leak and walks into the open, where he detonates on the spot. A flashback plays, Melanie leaving home, chasing a better life in New York, asking Clover to come along. Clover said no. Then Melanie turned into a Wendigo. Because this is all a nightmare. Clover wakes up in the house with the others, except for Megan. This time they're in the living room, not their usual spots. Abe scratches his back and lifts his shirt. His body is already mutating, but the others insist it's nothing. Clover asks how many nights it's been. Abe says 4, but Nina opens the guest book. Her signature is there 13 times. Clover compares it with other names. None stayed longer. Tonight is their last chance. They look out the window and see new buildings have appeared outside. Megan is still missing. Abe theorizes she became part of the night, like the witch said. He doesn't understand the memory gaps, so he pulls out his phone. He's been recording everything. One video shows Clover with a worm wriggling from her cheek, the infection spreading. In another, the group is killed by a masked ghost. In a third, they battle a Wendigo in a boiler room and kill it. There's a clip of Nina with blood pouring from her eyes. Then footage of Hill inspecting their corpses. Once Hill leaves, Megan appears, the only survivor of night 12. She says she found something that could help them. Then she leaves the house. Suddenly, a siren wails. The group races to the window. All their enemies are approaching at once. Running is useless. Clover grabs a pickaxe and declares she'll save Megan, even if she has to fight every monster in Glor Valley. The others are inspired to join her. They rush through the basement tunnel and enter a sunken house through a shattered window. Inside, a Wendigo lurks in the next room. They try to stay silent, but it senses them and charges. It pins Nina to the ground, but Clover stabs it in the leg, pinning it momentarily. They flee. More Wendigos howl in pursuit. After racing through several rooms, they reach a mine tunnel and sprint through, emerging into another sunken house via the garage door, but the slasher crashes through the skylight. Max throws whatever he can to distract him, allowing Clover to slip away alone. She enters a clearing in the mines and finds Melanie. Melanie immediately tackles her to the ground. Clover scrambles for the stairs, but Melanie pulls her down again. With her hands raised in peace, Clover pleads, trying to reach what's left of her sister. It doesn't work, so Clover lunges forward and tackles Melanie, impaling her on a wooden stake. As her sister fades, Clover whispers,
I love you, Mel.
Back with the others, they gang up on the slasher, using whatever they can to bring him down. Once he collapses, they lift a massive hammer together and crush his skull. But the Wendigos are closing in. They rush back toward Clover. She's still navigating the mine, hiding as one of the creatures lumbers past. Finally, she finds the clinic and follows Megan's screams to a locked room. Megan is tied to a chair. A rabid Wendigo snarls nearby, chained to the wall. Clover searches frantically through the building until she reaches the office. There, she finds her own file and sees a bank of security monitors. Then Hill enters. He locks the door and sips from his mug. He calmly tells her that Glor Valley runs on her terror and that every monster is just a reflection of her own fear. While he's distracted, Clover places the mug under a ceiling leak. Hill drinks again and explodes from the inside. Clover snatches the keys and rushes to Megan. The Wendigo breaks free, but the girls shove the door shut and lock it before it can reach them. Both groups sprint as the monsters close in. Nina's group escapes through the stairs. Clover and Megan dig. They resurface, right under the cross where it all began. The Wendigos try to drag them back down, but the others arrive just in time to pull them free. The final grain of sand falls in the hourglass. But this time, it doesn't reset. The storm vanishes. The valley clears. The friends climb into the car, at last ready to leave. Sometime later, a new group arrives, and in the distance, Hill's whistling begins again. And there's the movie ends. Please help subscribe and like for helping our channel grow, knows that you are always appreciated, and thank you for watching.